Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Village Law SEQFC preview show. My name is Darren, and I'm one of the admins of that toxic Facebook page, SEQFC. We've got some guests with us this evening. We've got Tony Jorkis. G'day, Tony.
Good evening. How are we?
We're very well, thank you. We've got Tom Connolly. G'day, Tom.
Hey, mate. How you going?
I'm well, thank you, sir. And we've got Scott Harding. So hi, Scott.
Hi, how are you?
Good, mate. Just the three guests tonight. We did have a few more lined up, a few late scratchings. But it's going to be a big show next week because they promised they'd be on next week. But good guests tonight. We'll have a good chat. Let's start with the NPL men's. And looking at this competition, Olympic on top. Gold Coast Knights in second place. No surprises there, Tony. You were saying pre-game you don't think Olympic have been challenged yet.
No, I don't think Olympic have been challenged, and I honestly don't think they've got out of second gear. I've watched them play three, I think, of their 4 games. And no. They beat the Royal Youth 5-0, which was an anticlimax. Honestly, I don't think that they're playing good football. A lot of the teams are letting them play the football they want to play. I went to watch them play the FFA Cup game. I left after 14 minutes. 2-0. It was 2-0. I left and went to Perry Park.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Look, they're surprising team for me in that comp is the Wanderers.
Yes, definitely. And who knows, maybe the fact that I know Southwest Queensland Thunder are certainly using me writing them off as motivation. I don't know if I've got that much power, but I certainly wrote the Wanderers off saying that they'd been in a lot of trouble. But boy, aren't they making me eat humble pie.
Yeah, they seem to be getting the right results.
And it's great to see. I mean, whatever it takes. I mean, I'm sure that Olympic certainly, whenever you bag out Olympic, Tony, that they play it to everyone and use it as motivation.
Well, I went to Power last year after I said they couldn't win it, and they told me that Ben Ryan said to me, you don't think we can win it? You're all this and that and that and that. And there you go. So
Yep. Whatever it takes, and no motivation. Then
I just ask them to pay me a fee for motivating the players. If they need to use me as a motivation, that could be problems.
Exactly. Guys, do you have any thoughts on the NPL competition?
Well, Lions are not really where they were last year, which is interesting. I thought they'd be hitting their straps a bit more. I know that I've spoken casually to Simon, obviously, at work, and some of the goals they gave away a couple of weeks ago, trying to play out of the back really naively. That's not the Lions I expected to see. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, still a few more weeks to go before we, the top half of the competition really takes shape. Gold Coast United, they're in 4th place at the moment, so very interesting. Very interesting.
They play Olympic on Sunday.
Yeah. I think was it you, Tony, pre-season that feared for Moreton Bay this year?
Yeah. 1
point so far. So that's a bit of a concern, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a concern. Yeah, he's got a very young squad. But I think there's 2 teams worse than him in that comp anyway, so he should be safe.
Okay. They're taking on Royal Youth this weekend, Moreton Bay. Just looking at the other matches, we've got the what do they call it? The Briz Classico with Brisbane City.
That is stretching the term, that is. Seriously. That is stretching the term Classico.
Certainly is. I think back to the 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
If it's back to the 80s, they take flares there and things like that. We want to go back to the 80s. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Well, we're back in the 80s. If we're back in the 80s, Italy would qualify for a World Cup.
But Penny Power taking on Gold Coast Knights. That'll be a fascinating game. And Olympic against Gold Coast United. So those are the pick of the fixtures there. All right. Now, we saw the NPL women's commence on the weekend. Lions picked up where they left off, 5-1 cruise over Olympic FC. Eastern Suburbs getting a win over South, and QAS, that was the big result, getting the win over Capalaba. Looking at this weekend's fixtures, anything of note there? South against Lions, Moreton Bay, QAS, see if they can back it up against Moreton Bay. That's about it there. All right. So look, if we don't have the guests on that can talk about the competition, then we're not going to talk about the competition. I've got 10 competitions to talk about here, and that's not even everything that we've got to discuss tonight. So we're going to whip through it all. Actually, on that point, we might give the FQPL a bit of a wide berth tonight, because with Liam on the show, we normally get our guests or coaches from that competition. Unless there's something you guys want to say about that comp. Brisbane Strikers on top, undefeated.
Not really, no.
No, Mitchelton getting their first win on the weekend over Magpies. So
I thought Mitchelton should have beaten the Strikers a week earlier.
yes, they were 2 goals up. That's 3-2.
I got to admit, Mitchelton haven't even trained at their home ground. So they're like a pack of refugees. They travel everywhere to train.
That's an
They have
interesting analogy.
facilities, right? So I would expect them that they'll get 7 or 8 home games in a row, I think, after that, to start getting much better results. Because currently, I think last week they trained at Sanford on half a field.
Yeah, it'd be a struggle for them. But
Yeah.
saw some pictures on social media over the last week or so. Their pitch looks
There's
to
a
be
bit of
getting
work
back
done
on
at the
track
club, yeah.
now, so yeah, good on them. Southwest Queensland Thunder in second place. After me tipping them to struggle this season, they're getting off to a great start. We tried to get Jason Hall, who's the tech director at the club, on the show tonight. He'll be on in future weeks to discuss all things happening on the range and the Southwest Queensland competition as well. Redlands United in third place. That's good to see as well. And we might leave that there. FQPL 2 in the men's. We've got Surfers Paradise with a big win over Sanford Rangers after we had Kirk on the show last week. It wasn't quite as easy as he made out it was going to be. 5-3 result there. Coomera getting points, a 2-all draw over North Star, so that's a good result for them. Range Thistle 4-3 over Taringa, and Albany Creek doing quite well. Also, they are undefeated. Surfers Paradise are undefeated. Top 2, they were the ones that we thought at the beginning of the season were going to do well, and so far, so good for them. South United and Taringa, actually Taringa were my tip. Nil Dupois. No points on the board as yet. Tony, anything you want to mention there?
No, not really, no. Rochdale are the disappointment so far, I think.
Yeah, Rochdale are in FQPL 1. They're in 5th place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, got anything to add there?
No, I think Marco over at Taringa's a bit hamstrung by the fact that he's got a lot of injuries, and obviously they've had problems from what I can make out, at least, building full squads. They've got a lot of young lads backing up, and he's trying to sort of sow seeds for the future. So it could be a long season for them, but we'll wait and see. They could turn the corner yet when some of those players come back.
Very good. All right. Looking at the FQPL women's, Brisbane City and Penny Power on top, the 2 undefeated teams. The Gap, the traditional powerhouse of the competition, are yet to register a point. Looking at their games this weekend, Penny Power taking on the Gap, and Brisbane City will be travelling out to Briggs Road to take on Western Pride. All right, guys, let's get into the FQ Metro competitions, given that that's where our strengths are. Now, Tony, our good mate Sky Hannafin, he's gone from the women's competitions over to coaching a men's team. Going all right so far, isn't he? He's got Coach of the Month, and his St. George Wollongong side is top of the league.
Well, I saw him at work. Obviously, we worked together. I congratulated him on his award, but I also said to him, mate, I thought you were lucky. That result against Pine Hills didn't reflect, wasn't a fair result. I spoke to Leo on Monday, obviously, and apparently Pine Hills had a goalkeeper got sent off early. So they were down 2-0 after the first 15 or 20 minutes, and then the third goal wasn't scored till the last 5 or 10. But they won. Give them credit. You can only beat what's in front of you, and he's sitting on top of the table.
He certainly is.
Yeah.
Toowong getting off to a good start there in second place, along with the Lakes, Newmarket in fourth. Guys, anything you want to throw in there about this competition?
That's Russell Mapry over at Toowong, isn't it?
It is, yes.
It is.
Making the move from Clairvaux.
The man himself. Yeah. So has he taken most of Clairvaux with him this year? I don't know who Toowong have got.
I don't know, to be honest.
I don't actually think there's that many who have gone across, but they've certainly started quite well and probably a bit better than what I thought they would be doing after 4 weeks. So fair play to Russ over at Toowong.
Yeah, travelling well.
I watched North Lakes play Pine Hills, and they looked all right too. Even though Pine Hills absolutely murdered them in the second half, they just could not score a goal. But they were very solid defensively. So, yeah.
Yes,
Wayne Hink's there. Yeah.
We're there for that game, weren't we, Tony?
Yes, that's correct. You're right. Yeah, Pine Hills murdered them the second half.
Yeah.
Centenary got a good win actually against Bayside on the weekend. That was a bit of a surprise, that result. I think it was 7-5 or something crazy like that.
What?
Yeah, I think I read something about it being 7-5, but yeah.
Fences taking a holiday.
Yeah, you could definitely say that.
Yeah, because especially when you consider the Stormers' results this season, and that one just came from nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah, don't know what happened.
Perhaps somebody had players out. A lot of things can happen.
Yeah, so the Lakes are taking on Bayside this weekend. Actually, these guys might have the week off, just looking at this draw. Or am I a week ahead? Yeah, I don't know about that one. I think these guys might have the weekend off. Does that make sense?
I thought it was only NPL on this weekend.
All right. Okay. Let's just quickly, before we move on to the other Brisbane competitions, I want to quickly have a chat about the Gold Coast. Their competition is up and running. Completely caught me by surprise. I thought they had their first round last weekend, but that's definitely not the case. Speaking of 7-5s, there was a 7-5 on the weekend. Runaway Bay over Tallabudra. Palm Beach had a 7-0 over Musgrave. Some big scorelines. The biggest one, of course, was Rabina, 9-1 over Nerang.
Wow.
Yeah. Great competition. I can't find a ladder for this league for some reason, so I can't tell you who's on top. But, yes, good to see that the competition's going, and we will get our Gold Coast guests on the shows in future weeks to bring us up to speed with everything going on there. Right. So, Scott, does this mean that this weekend all the Brisbane competitions have got the weekend off?
I don't know. I'm just about to check actually, because I was thinking we were playing Tarragindi, but I'm just going to have a look and see if that's the case.
We're not playing in QPL 6 this weekend, so I assume that's probably the same for.
It would probably be the same.
Same. Yeah.
That would make sense.
One thing I will point out about that Gold Coast competition, they're not playing this weekend, but they're playing their fixtures on Tuesday night when everyone's back. So that's interesting.
That is interesting, actually.
What do you think about that, guys? Is that good scheduling?
I don't think that's bad. I think that's good.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. There's some clubs who are now going to have gone best part of 4 weeks without kicking a football in a match. So, if it keeps the games ticking over, I think it's good scheduling.
Yeah, we are off this weekend. There you go.
There we go. We get you guys on to talk about what's coming up.
That's all right. That's fine. There's plenty of other stuff to talk about as well.
All right. So, Springfield, you're off to a good start there, Scott.
Yes, it was a very tough game against Oxley, though. 3 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday, nice and hot. And they got a bit of go about them, Oxley, to be fair. They got given, if I'm being honest, I was at the game. We were 1-0 up, couldn't finish. And they got given one of the stranger penalties I've seen for a little while, where our centre-back got kicked by 2 players, one from either side. I don't know whether they gave the penalty because he was in the way. I'm not sure, but they got penalty from that 1-1, and then we had a guy sent to the bin for dissent. So I was going, here we go, because we don't have a really good record at Oxley, to be honest with you. And then we managed to nick a goal about 10 minutes later, and then hold out. So, but it was tough. Even a draw would have been fair at that point. Probably the hardest game we've had this season so far. We had a spicy game a couple of weeks back with Westside. There's some interesting interactions with their coach there. I wasn't at the game, but that sounded quite lively. So they'll be decent Westside, I think. Willowburn impressed me when I watched them. They got some go about them. The only problem is going to be the travel for them, I think. But they'll be up and about the top four, I reckon. And then Brighton are obviously travelling very well in our division as well. So young side Brighton, from what I hear, and mobile, and if they stay together, they could cause a lot of damage, I think.
Brighton, of course, are top of the league.
Mm.
Yes, they are. Well, they would be on goal difference, I think. Yes, yeah. So they haven't played us yet. So.
There you go. That's a confident statement, isn't it?
Well, they've got to come to our place first. We'll see what they've got.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly want to jump back into the FQPL 4. North Brisbane. Now, they got promoted last season, didn't they?
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah.
And they've carried on that good form. They're undefeated so far in the new competition, ahead of Logan Metro and North Pine. So great start for those guys.
I'm interested at the bottom of the table. Like I actually backed Ripley to be top four, and they're struggling a bit. They're down. How did they go against Slacks at the weekend? I don't know what the score was.
I thought it was a draw.
Was it a draw?
Let me check.
Yeah, it looks that way, given that they're only on 2 points.
Yeah, because I'd tip Bulls to go, and I don't know whether they've registered any points yet.
Yeah, 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. Okay, yeah, they'll come right. I'm still backing. They'll come right. Make a late run.
Looking at that competition, looking at Redcliffe Dolphins in 7th place, considering that they beat Capalaba, that seems like a false position to me, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does. They're better than that. For sure.
I don't know whether beating Capalaba is too much to brag about either, but. So I reckon they're the ones that are
an
going to
NPL team,
right?
They are an NPL team.
They're the worst NPL team in the comp by a long way.
Oh, that's rough.
And it's only round 4, and I'm not going there to watch them play at all.
Okay, right. Okay.
There we go, Bulldogs. Stick that on you.
Wow, I was going to say, you ever wanted a team talk, it's just been done for you, I think.
There you go. You can use this video next week and wrap them up and see how you go.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. Who's going to face their raft this weekend? Sunny Coast Wanderers. There you go.
They've got 3
Look
points
out,
in the back.
Wanderers are in trouble now.
Thanks for coming.
Oh dear. All right. So yes, great to see North Brisbane on top. Guys, do North Brisbane have a nickname?
They don't, but they sometimes refer to themselves as the Aces.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, but it's not something that's really well known within the playing group. It's more of the older administrators who are involved with the club. But if you look closely at the logo, it's actually the 4 suits of cards that you've got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, so you could be the ace of each of the decks. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not doing it for me, I'll be honest. Sorry, but it's not.
But Tony, don't Mitchelton have a history of being called the Aces as well?
I thought they're called the Mustangs, aren't
Yeah, but prior to the Mustangs, if you go back in their history, they've got.
Yes, but I don't know how far back that goes. That would have to be the 50s
it's
and
a long
60s.
way. It's a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Tom, your competition. Oldbridge, how's it going?
It's going good. Feels like we haven't played for a few weeks. Obviously, game last week got postponed, which was unfortunate. But we had a trip up to Bribie Island 2 weeks ago. Got a good win on the board up there.
How many mosquito bites you get?
Oh, a lot. I'm still recovering.
I was about to say. You know?
Yeah, it was a long trip, a lot of mosquitoes around, but I think Bribey are one of those teams that as the year goes on, their results and performances are definitely going to pick up. Obviously, it's going to be a bit of a challenge for them at the start. They had a difficult result on the weekend, but I'm expecting them to turn it around as the year goes on.
Park Ridge, top of the league. Logan Village in second place. And Logan Roos. Logan Roos.
Yeah.
Everyone's favourite team. Yeah.
There's definitely been a few surprise results so far this season that have caught the eye.
A Teviot win being no less.
Well, I don't think they're the worst team
No,
going.
They're not. I've said that before.
But like we said with Redcliffe, I think there are a few teams that are potentially in false league positions. And until probably, we've had 8 or 9 rounds, it'll be a bit hard to say where teams are actually at. A few teams have got games to catch up on. Like I think Ridge Hills are undefeated so far, and they've got a catch-up game. So they could be in first themselves. So every team has got a win so far this year except one. So it seems like it's a pretty even competition so far.
I must admit, I watched Village play in pre-season. They were solid. They were a solid outfit. I'm not shocked to see Village up in the top 4 somewhere. But again, it's going to come down to injuries and injury management, I think, in this division and ours, without doubt.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that. Good to see Bethania up in the top half of the ladder as well. Old Bridge, Salisbury. How's your home ground? Is it in good nick?
It is. We've done quite well with the recent weather. We haven't really had too many issues. Like there is the odd corner that might be suffering a bit from the rain, but we haven't had to like cancel any training sessions or anything like that due to the weather. So that's been good. It's just a case, I guess, of getting back on the field. We haven't played 2 back-to-back games really this season yet. So just getting that consistency of week to week. It feels like we've kind of had 3 or 4 pre-seasons already, and we're only in April.
Must be frustrating, yes. All right. Let's have a quick chat about the F2PL 2 women's. UQFC are on top of the league with 4 straight wins. Ipswich Knights also are undefeated in that competition as well. Taringa, the team that we thought would smash it, they've actually lost a game early doors. So they're back in 3rd place. Rabina in 6th. Broadbeach in 5th. That's the big surprise of the competition so far. And we'll have
UQ are going to walk off with that. I'm telling you now. All right, that's my early tip. UQ are walking off with it. That's my.
We'll have Jack who's the coach of UQ on the show next week, so he can bring us up to speed with how he's going and what's changed in the past 12 months. All right, guys. Well, that's all the competitions that I wanted to run through. What else have we got to talk about here?
Where do you want to start? Honestly, some of the threads on the forum this week have been an absolute choice. I've enjoyed myself immensely. I love the parents complaining about the NPL fixtures being midweek, and apparently that was the GPS school's fault. That was interesting. That was an interesting parallel. I wasn't quite sure what that was going on there, but I don't know when they think these fixtures are supposed to be played. I mean, it's been a perennial issue with school sport and club sports, and it's up to Football Queensland to work that out. Do you know what I mean?
There was a post that wasn't on our page about a certain referee who is very popular amongst the Brisbane ranks, and it's no longer is it registered as a referee with Football Queensland?
Oh.
Yeah,
I haven't heard about this one.
It was for his social media posts on our page. They didn't specify which posts. But the fact that he was posting, and there were about 4 quality referees that have suffered a similar fate.
Well, that's interesting in and of itself, isn't it?
It's disappointing to see without naming who the individual is. I thought they were a fantastic referee. I feel like there could have been other ways it could have been dealt with. But obviously Football Queensland's got their code of conducts and, it does need to be respected. But I feel like a warning or something along those lines might have been a better way of dealing with it. But it's sad to see like we are struggling with referee numbers as it is. But to lose quality referees, it's disappointing.
This comes down to a freedom of expression argument too, though. Do you know what I mean? For individuals, at some point you go, are you a direct employee of the organisation that you're criticising, or are you contracted to it? You know what I mean? This is a really interesting argument, this one.
Yeah, and I would certainly never go on social media and bag my employers
No.
on a Facebook page. Having said that, I didn't see anything that was terribly controversial in the comments.
Neither.
No, that's probably why I don't know about it, because nothing stood out to me.
But I understand that there's over 35s competitions and a lot of clubs out there looking for club referees. So
Well, guess what's going to happen?
I'm sure he'll get plenty of offers.
Oh, yeah, yes. The offers came rolling in thick and fast.
You'll have to tell me all about this off camera, I think, boys.
Yeah, I might have to. But just on that, Scott, how have you gone this season with getting your referees in?
We've been quite proactive in terms of working on club refs as well. So certainly in the junior space, we're well covered. With the senior space, we've got quite a few local refs who we have on the books. So we're relatively lucky given our geographical position too, because we're midway between everybody. Do you know what I mean? I think it's probably harder for some of the smaller clubs that are further out to get refs to go there. Sort of your Teviots and that way. Jim Boom, but they've struggled a bit to get the refs out there consistently, even when they've been actually appointed, which is quite frustrating, I would imagine. But no, we've been okay so far. We've had the one or two games we've had to cover internally, but generally we've been okay.
So you haven't had any games where you've been missing an assistant referee or anything like that?
We've had a couple. We've had to put in an assistant ref.
Yeah, we had one against Yeronga of all teams.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we only had one assistant referee, which was interesting. A few calls, but the referees have got a challenging job as it is. So
no, they do. I mean, the dissent law is an interesting one too, isn't it?
Definitely.
That's become quite the hot button topic I've noticed on the page as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because some people are going the dissent law was a prop for weak refereeing. Other people are going, well, actually, it's worked overseas. If you look very carefully at the stats, I'm personally in favour of it. I don't like mindless dissent for no reason. I just think it's become an endemic issue in the game locally, and I think that I remember there was a trial a few years back when they actually tried the rugby union thing and moving people back. Do you remember this one? But 10 meters back. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
That was crazy. Yeah.
No, I think the sin-bin rule it's good, but obviously there are issues with it. But I do think it's like a problem within the local game in particular that we've got with dissent. So, and again, we're trying to keep referees coming back each season, and you're not going to want to come back if you're just getting abused every week. So I think it's good that the referees do have that up their pocket, but only if they're using it properly. And then again, it's hard to criticize a referee without being the referee, because if you're the referee and you're having 20 people scream at you constantly, it's a bit different.
I think it's also down to club culture. Do you know what I mean? That comes down to club culture as well. If it's driven from above, that's just not what you do. And if you do, there are consequences for that. I've had to have hard conversations with people over the last 4 or 5 years about this, and quite a lot of those individuals, I'll be quite frank, have weeded out the club because we don't want that in the local game.
Yeah, that's refreshing to hear, because I feel like there's a fair few clubs who don't share those values. So it's good. It's good to hear that there's a few clubs like that.
Yeah.
Scott, how many times have you had to grab a T-shirt or a flag and run a sideline?
Not too many in recent years, actually. I used to do it quite a lot, about 5, 6 years ago. I used to ref centre ref and everything. I did a lot, but yeah, not in recent years. The last 2, 3 years, it's been relatively lot on for me in that sense. But Perhaps I might come out of retirement. Who knows?
What about you, Tony? Have you ever been an assistant?
No, mate, I'm not blind and I'm not deaf.
Wow.
I have to tell you guys, one of the great things about knowing Tony is that when he was working at clubs, and you just gravitate towards the bench wherever he was, because Tony'd always throw in his little one-liners, and then he'd inspire everyone else. So yes, you'd be given
It creates atmosphere, mate. That's what it's all about. You got to get
you'd be
people
given the
involved.
reps, but you'd be doing it with humour as well, wouldn't you?
I got sent off in a game in 2013. We were playing, Mitchelton were playing Grange. And Arvie sent me off for calling someone a thug, and he called it as intimidation. Mate, I'm 4'3", the bloke was 6'11". I can't intimidate anyone.
Perhaps you hurt his feelings.
And I got sent off, and as I was leaving, I slammed the gate and he came off the hinge. And I think Blanchy was covering the game, and he gave me a bit of a spray after it as well. So
that's good work. That's a decent day's out.
Arvie Cohen, now there's a name I haven't heard in a while.
yeah.
He was a good ref.
There was a good batch of referees a few years back, but some of them you could talk to.
Well, that's the point, right? Do you think that there's an inhibition now of common sense with refereeing? With the laws and the way they're written.
Some of them have got big egos.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. There were referees posting on our page. If you then go to your game and you find out that that's the guy who's on the page, wouldn't you give him a wider berth than you would for a referee that you didn't know?
Well, you might get sledged for it too. I mean, it depends on what you're posting. It's all contextual.
Yeah, but you can have a
mind,
rolling conversation as a result, can't you?
You can. That's right. But bear in mind, they're now actually hiding the name of FU referees. We don't know who's being appointed on the appointments page. So that's an interesting one too. That's something started happening the last couple of weeks.
Ref roulette.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's good fun. Actually, I missed that. I missed that part of the game, getting back involved and sitting in the dugout.
I bet you do.
And stirring them up, giving them a bit of stick. I don't think Ted Carney's spoken to me for 10 years.
Have you lost a lot of sleep over it? That's the question.
I sleep very well. Don't worry.
That's good to hear.
No problem whatsoever. I just call a spade a spade. Some you upset some along the way, and so be it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tony, is there anything else we need to talk about?
No, not really. Enjoy the football. Have a good Easter and go from there.
Yeah, having a good Easter. Yeah. What about the fact that there are games on this weekend? Is that a problem?
No, I reckon they should have all been on.
Yeah,
enough installations, haven't we? Surely.
It's an interesting one. I mean, people are starting to get quite antsy about the delayed season. They do need to be slightly more creative about where the games are played. Look, there's been a lot on. I understand that, grading, etc. as well. But yeah, I think some of these issues are probably foreseeable.
So is there a game on? Is the games off this week? What about Labor Day weekend? Are they all off as well?
No, they're on that week.
They're on.
Okay.
Yeah, they're on.
Okay.
All right. So we'll give a pass for Easter, but all the other weekends, just let it get the games on.
Well, I reckon they should play Easter as well.
You do?
Why can't they play Easter Sunday?
What if you've got a family?
You've got plenty of time to spend with your family. You've got Friday, you've got Saturday, you can play Sunday. 3 hours of your days are going to kill you, mate. Believe me,
play on the Monday. Play on the Monday.
You can play Easter Monday. What's wrong with that?
I think what they're doing on the Gold Coast is actually a pretty good idea. Like, if it's not on the, maybe not on the Tuesday if everyone's had like a big Easter or whatever, but maybe do it on the Wednesday or Thursday before everyone goes off on Easter.
Yeah, but it's a long weekend, next weekend as well.
Yeah. Next 4 weeks are like long weekends, really.
But if you know that, I mean, you can see that in the calendar, right? You can foresee that the season before. So you look at it and go, you can probably build in around where you do that. Do you know what I mean? So just anticipating the issue, I think.
And then the excuse would be, the fields are getting cut up. This is getting cut up. Players are going away. The other 4 have got COVID. We've got no teams. We postponed some more and off we go again.
This has been half the argument about the Metro League grading, where the fixtures have been coming out midweek. And obviously they're working quite hard behind the scenes with various different things. But then people are going, well, I can't play on the Friday or Saturday 3 days later because we're on shift, or COVID has struck, or there have been so many forfeits in grading. Ironically, they've been now relying on the nominations. And you go, it sort of makes it a bit of a farce. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So that can be a bit of an issue too. So you can have the best laid plans, but they don't always work.
Yeah. Anyone watching Matildas last night?
No, I didn't actually. What was the score?
It was 3-1 to Australia over New Zealand. I'm still not convinced.
What are you not convinced by?
Oh, look, I don't think the patterns of play are there. I think that he hasn't shuffled the deck enough. He made a few subs during the game, but I mean, do we really need to see Sam Kerr play for 90 minutes to work out if she can play or not?
No.
You know, but I'm really interested to find out what happens if Sam Kerr gets injured during a game and we need a replacement in that position.
Well, that'll be the excuse. Sam Kerr got injured and we lost.
Exactly. I just didn't see it. Apart from Chidiac, who had a fantastic game when she came on, I didn't see too many plan Bs in that game. But
did you move the system around? Did you change the system, or did you keep the system?
I don't think it's system or anything like that. It's just I just don't think he's managed the players very well at all. I don't see a plan. I don't see the players gelling. Having Gorry back certainly made a difference and added a lot of bite in that midfield, and that's something that was missing in the prior games. But
maybe he's got the Graham Arnold disease. No plan B.
Yeah, no plan B, and I didn't see the control of the game that was required.
Well, that's the element that worries me a bit, because I'm watching some of the European teams play, obviously, for the World Cup qualifying, and they're slick. There's 5 or 6 teams in there that are genuinely slick. And if we don't control the midfield, we're going to really, really struggle. Really struggle.
Yeah.
But I think football, Australia-wide, struggling.
Well, the men's team have been appalling for about 3 years now. Do you know what I mean?
So
3 or 4 years.
Matilda's a struggle in the Asian Cup. When was the last time we qualified in any age group, World Cup? So we've gone through this method over the last 10 years of creating robots. We're playing these pyramids or whatever we're playing, or these witches' hats that we set up on fields. We're not creating it. We're not developing any players.
Well, part of the problem, I think, is that we're trying to copy other places, like the Dutch. I mean, why would we copy the Dutch? We're not.
What have they done?
Yeah, what have they done? I mean, that's my point. With all due respect to them, what have they done? You know, we're not similar in temperament to the Dutch. We don't educate the same way as them. Why we ever copied them is beyond me. It really is. Surely we got enough sort of technically able minds in this country to create our own DNA and our own style of playing. You know what I mean?
We've got to stop the jobs for the boys.
Is that the issue, do you think?
Well, what's Arnold got to do to get sacked?
Yeah. Fair point.
Yeah, not qualify. That might do it.
That'll be coming pretty soon.
They're not going to qualify now.
What chance do you actually, out of 10, you give Australia qualifying for the World Cup? More than
More
one?
chance of me walking to Perth, mate.
5?
Yeah, I'll give them 5. They'll dog out a result against the UAE. It's Peru that worry. You know what
I watched Australia play the last game, whoever that was against, or we drew. 2 hours later, I watched Peru. That will rip us to shreds.
That's what worries me. Do you know what I mean? That's going to be 4-5-0, I think.
Yeah.
Scott, if you've got a coach that comes up to you and says, I want to play a 3-5-2 system, Dev, any problems with that?
No. Our FQPL 3 coach is doing it currently. Yeah. He's playing it currently. It's interesting because we played North Brisbane at the weekend, and North Brisbane are very much setting the pace in the QPL 3 women's. And we lost 8-1, but it was 3-1 with 20 to go. And then the fitness told, do you know what I mean? But the system seemed to work quite well. And it's something he's relatively married to, from what I can make out. And let's see how he goes. I like it as a system personally, but you need to have someone at the back who can bring the ball out. And, you know, you get one or two players who can do that, you've got a very flexible system on your hands.
But so there's freedom to play any system that the coach chooses. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, my club, absolutely. You know what I mean? I don't have a particular... I'm not so married on the system. It's more the style of play. Do you know what I mean? It's the style of play that's more of an interest to me. Do you know what I mean? Get the ball on the floor, move it wide, maintain possession where you can. Do you know what I mean? The system you can move around. It depends on the kind of players you have physically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting because I'm pretty sure that at an NPL level or an FQPL level, which is supposed to be the elite, if the coach wants to change it around, they don't have that flexibility, do they?
Yeah, I don't subscribe to that. Sorry.
There's no. A lot of teams, and I've watched a fair bit of NPL. There is no plan B.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. You know, where's the tactical flexibility?
Yeah.
You know,
I talk a lot with Bobby Hamilton, and we watch games together and things like that. And he says the same thing. We've created a bunch of robots. We've got all these blokes that are going to the gym and they look solid and things like that. They can't pass the ball 10 feet.
No.
We're creating second rowers instead of footballers. Yeah.
Which you're actually seeing then at the international men's level when they play, say, Japan. Do you know what I mean? And physically they'll put in a few crunching tackles, but the Japanese are running, like Minamino ran through everybody.
They were running circles around us.
Yeah, Minamino was having a day out, wasn't he? Basically.
It was men against boys, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. A Liverpool reserve player, you know?
Yeah. You know Billy Lumley and a couple of others, those English boys. You know them, Darren, yeah? Billy Lumley's a goalkeeping academy coach.
Certainly do. Yeah, Port Brisbane.
And I keep stirring him up, him and Tommy Laxton and a few others. I said, what have you Pommy rejects coming to this country? What have you done? You're just siphoning money out of poor kids that are rich, taking them out, taking the money off them, and you've done nothing. And you live on your glory of your brother playing for bloody West Bromwich Albion or Middlesbrough, whatever he's playing at now. That's it.
It's funny, actually, England's a really interesting case in point because everyone used to laugh at English coaching and English methodology. In the last 20, 30 years, they've had to really, really go from the grassroots up and start to go through technique. And, you know, they used to crave athleticism above anything. Do you know what I mean? And now you look at some of the players they're producing at the age group levels coming through the system. Like your Phil Fodens and your Mason Mounts and people like this.
Yeah.
And they're genuinely technically impressive players. So it can be done because they're a good example of a country that had to go back to absolute basics.
Grassroots.
Well,
Belgium's another one.
We need to make it affordable for kids to play the game.
Yeah.
There could be talented kids that don't have well-off parents. If you've got three in the family and it's costing you $3,000 each, that's $9,000. People can't afford it. We're becoming a rich man's game with no ability.
The biggest thing, like for me, because obviously I grew up in the UK and coming over to Australia, it's if you're good at football in the UK, they'll come to you and make sure they get your like at their club. In Australia, it doesn't really matter if you're good. It's more about your money. And if you can, and to me, that is absolutely crazy. And I think Zlatan Ibrahimovic actually made the point, you know, what's happening in America is similar to what's happening here. And he just found it absolutely crazy that, you know, for his kids to be, you know, at all these clubs, it just comes down to money. And he thought it was mad. And I think it's the exact same thing here in Australia. You're seeing kids paying, or their parents paying $2,000 or $3,000. And what are they really getting out of that? Like they're getting someone who's got like
they're getting
a badge.
tracksuit. They're getting a tracksuit and a bag to carry their gear in, and that's it.
And the amount of, like, for me, obviously being in QPL 6 and then having coached in QPL 5 before, a lot of people are coming to our clubs and saying, oh, I used to play NPL. And it's almost like when I hear that, it almost means nothing now because it feels like everyone's played NPL juniors and it doesn't really mean anything. And it's almost like a bit of a cautionary thing for coaches to look out for. You know, it seems like everyone's played at NPL at some stage. And, you know, in the UK, if you were to say, oh, I've played in the professional development league, it would actually mean something. Whereas here, to me, it doesn't really mean much at all.
I used to teach in the state sector in England when I first started, and we were just down the road from Chelsea's training ground, from Connolly. And very often, because we were one of the biggest state schools in the area, we had a very strong football program. Quite a few of the lads are on Chelsea's books. Do you know what I mean? Chelsea had sent players out, sort of scouts out to watch the players play. I mean, they were proactive about it. And so, Brentford, Chelsea, a few of the others were out watching these boys when they were playing under 12s, under 11s, under 12. They knew who these kids were. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. I don't know. Some of these clubs, they just expect the players to come to them, I think. You know what I mean? It's quite lazy. I find it quite lazy. And then there's no real follow through from the club to make sure those players feel welcome, or the parents are ingrained in the club culture. It's just, we'll take your money and on you go. Do you know what I mean?
There's to be honest, how many success stories can you think of out of the NPL? I think you can probably think of no more than probably 5 so far.
Less, not
There's
many.
not 5 there. There's not 5 there.
I was being generous.
You are being generous. It's a road to nowhere. It's a weak and unsustainable product, NPL. We know it.
We've got a case in point at the moment. We've got Jez, who has lit up the league in the past few years. He finally gets his debut last night. Did anyone catch it?
No, I didn't catch it. How did he go?
Didn't even know it was on.
I only saw a few comments that I think he got subbed off after 60 minutes, and the game was a 0-0 draw. So there were no comments saying, "Hey, what a great debut!" Just saying, good that he got his debut. Not that he set the league alight or anything like that. So hopefully in future weeks he'll find his feet and, really start to make some gains in the league. But it just shows, the A-League, you look at the A-League, you look at the quality of the A-League, and it's taking Jez, half a season now just to get a starting berth in that competition. So how far down is our competition now?
Do you put that down to being a risk averse as a selector, though, when you're selecting the teams? Is that Jez's fault, or is that the conservative nature of A-League team selection? That's the question.
Yeah.
There's 2 ways looking at it. There's 2 ways looking at it.
And look, there's probably a player already in his position that Jez had to beat out to get in, to get that start. So you can take that on board. There's Jez, the fact that he was at Olympic rather than, say, at Lions or any other club. So he might have taken a little bit of time to get up to speed with the system.
You look at the local level. You look at, say, let's take a Lions or an Olympic, for instance. How hard do you reckon it is to blood an under-18 player in the top team? Do you know what I mean? When you got guys there on money, and they're being paid per result. It's not. It's a problem.
To be fair, I'd argue that Lions blooded a lot of players last season, and Penn Power are doing that this year.
I got sprayed because I said.
What I'm saying is, you've got to have some nerve to do it.
Yep.
I got sprayed last season because I mentioned that Olympic haven't never used any of their youth players on the same thing.
You did?
Now I noticed that this year there have been a few under. Who cares? Yeah, that's right. But I noticed that this year he has played some of the under 23s in the first team this year. So, but there's not many. Not many.
But it's happening.
Well, let's see. Let's see how many.
I suppose the point I'm trying to make is that that's the end of the pipeline, right?
Yeah.
So if the end of the pipeline means you don't get a gig in the senior team, what was the point of being in the pipeline?
Let's go to Melbourne or Adelaide. Might as well go to Melbourne and Sydney, get some extra money and go from there.
You may as well, frankly. There's going to be some deliberate decisions in the NPL about blooding young players. Otherwise, we're always going to have a stagnant up here.
Well, look, to be fair, they did have that rule in place in the first few years of the competition, that there were only a certain number of overage players. Everyone had to be, under 25 to play? Was it a good competition then?
Well, at least it had some potential to improve.
Yeah.
It had some potential to improve. You'll understand, I understand what you're saying about young players being played, but they're not meant to be the finished article. That's the point. Do you know what I mean? They're meant to be given exposure. It's a chicken and the egg situation. If you're not given the experience, how can you improve?
And of course, John Cosmeta tried to do that last year with the strikers, and look how that ended up.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. But perhaps it's then a blending experience with that youth. That's the point.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
You can't send a bunch of kids out to compete in an NPL or NPL1 or whatever. And it's been all along. And I remember I'll use a case, Olympic for 100 years, try to get into Premier League. You can't do it. You've got to have half a dozen experienced hard heads.
You do.
In your team, no matter what happens.
I'm talking about blending players in, not wholesale.
Yeah. And then you blend them in. You put a couple in every time. I remember 2006, I think Bobby gave Michael Zulo around the strikers. And he was only 16. Everyone said, oh, he's too small, he's too this. He gave him a crack.
That was an amazing year.
Hey?
That was an amazing year watching him break through.
That's right. And he got barreled. He got smashed every game he played. They tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's nothing around after that. Who has it been? Michael Zulo, Robbie Cruz, Tommy, all those. Ever since those 4 or 5 left, well, what else have we produced? Zilch. Nothing at all. That was in 2007 and 8. We've done nothing for 13 years. We've taken the rich kids. I've got the rich parents. Take the $2.5 grand. They can't kick a ball, but they're playing NPL because they've got the money. The single family, the single income family that's got 3 talented kids can't afford the 10 grand. They go and play for a park team, but they've got the better ability.
Well, I can tell you now, there's a lot of kids running around the community who are far players in the NPL.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you. You know what I mean?
Because we turn it into a rich man's sport. Next thing we'll be wearing those elbow patches on our jackets like the rugby union used to do years ago. We've got to get back. We've got to get back into reality. We're living in fantasy land. We're going to get copper hiding out of the World Cup. We've done nothing in any age groups. The women have gone backwards. Maybe we should bring back Sydney Olympic and Brisbane City and all them and get back in the game.
That's one solution. I mean, look, part of the problem, I think, is also the nature of kids today and the structured lives they lead. You know, they lead very episodic lives. Everything's structured. You look at some of these top South American players who live from impoverished backgrounds, and they learn to be brilliantly talented players because they play street football. And every waking moment, they're trying something different. They might be playing with a can, for Christ's sake. Do you know what I mean? They're certainly not worrying about the length of the grass and whether or not the fields are wet. I can guarantee you that. You know what I mean? No. They're playing because they have a passion for it. It's in their DNA. Whereas I think with some of the kids here, they do it because their parents have scheduled them to do it. Or they fall out of love with it because they expect immediate rewards and they don't come. Those are the 2 big problems that you seem to see as barriers for a lot of the young NPL players, particularly. And it's the ones that fight through that have an equal chance. But the mental fortitude with some of these players and the parents, to be honest with you, isn't always there. You know, people pay their money, then they expect a service. That's essentially what happens. You know, and that's not the way that the world works, I'm afraid.
No, we got to have a reality check.
Yeah, I think there is a reality check. Absolutely. Well, the reality check is we're not qualifying for World Cups. That's the reality check. Do you know what I mean? So we need to do something at the bottom of the pyramid to come through.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to get that reality check at this World Cup and we won't make it. But the next World Cup just gives, the administrators a bailout because I think it's 8 Asian teams are going to qualify for the 2026 World Cup because they're going to 48 teams. So, I'd like to think Australia will be in the top 8 teams in 4 years' time. It'd probably take some even bigger fall off. But, it seems as though they'll probably be able to get away without, doing a proper review and changing any of the structures that they need to.
They definitely need to review NPL because it's not working.
No.
It's not working. So
it's been around for what, 9-10 years now?
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. It hasn't worked. We all remember a better time when, the golden generation of Socceroos in inverted commas certainly didn't go through the NPL system. A lot of them were playing in Europe when they were 15, 16. So they'd gone abroad already. Harry Kewell was a good example. He was over in Leeds at what age? What age did he go across?
16, I think.
17, yeah.
So he furthered his education abroad, So that's the difference.
But how many other kids are now playing overseas? they weren't in the NPL system because they weren't given a go and they were just took off and went overseas.
Was that lad playing for Roma, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We might leave it there, guys.
Why
I
not?
thought it was going to be a short show today. Maybe
No,
20
why
minutes.
I might not go to any games after tonight. I might just stay home.
You're not going out to Caliber, are you? Let's be fair.
No chance of that. No.
Get the stab vest on.
Yeah, I'm not going there.
We've done the hour. We've gone a little bit off topic, gone a bit macro with our.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm very positive about our future, I have to say. We can do it. We can do it. You out there in Clubland. Create
Bring back
brilliance.
Ange. Bring back Ange.
Bring back Ange.
Guys, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been
That's
great
all right.
having a chin wag, and we'll probably keep on going once this recording stops. We've got heaps of guests on next week, so look out for that show. It's going to be a cracker. My name is Darren. This has been the SEQFC preview show with thanks to our good friends at Vilic Law. They're compensation lawyers. Did you know that? Anyway, we'll see you next week.